Hey guys, today we're going to be talking about the books that I read recently. So hi, my name's Talia. I love books. I love bandanas. I'm so glad you're at my channel today. We're just doing a pretty casual chat about my recent reads. Starting kind of the end of March. I did middle grade March, but by like the last week of March, I was kind of feeling done with reading middle grade, so I kind of moved on to some other things. So I will be talking about those here, and then just kind of continuing on through like mid-April. We're almost at the end of April here, so we're gonna chat about those books as well. Not gonna lie, I'm leaving for a trip in a couple of days, and there's like so many things I should be doing right now. My house is trashed, not packed. Like I have to get the kids packed too. Like there's just lots of things that need to be scrubbed. Everything's just a mess, but I'm feeling like also so over it that I'm like, it's fine. It can be a mess. It'll still be a mess when I get back. So I'm in this kind of like weird place of like, I know I should be doing things, but I don't want to be doing them. So I just thought we'd talk about books instead, because I always like to talk about books, and I also would love to get another video out before my trip, because on my trip I'm gonna read a whole bunch of other books that I will want to film and talk about after the trip. So I wanted to film about these while they're somewhat fresh on my mind. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna get this filmed, hopefully get it edited at some point, and the mess will still be there tomorrow. Like there's still 2 days to go. It's plenty of time to get the house in order. Plenty of time. Okay, no more blabbing. Time to jump right in. I think we're just gonna go kind of in the order that I read them in for today's video. So the end of March, I finally picked up Breathless by Amy McCulloch. This was my very first book of the month book. Like way back a couple years ago when I started book of the month, I picked this one up. And this is about a journalist, and she's kind of like an inexperienced journalist. She's had like a couple of mountain climbs in her past, but she hasn't really had success on them. And she, through this roundabout way, gets invited to go mountain climbing on, I think it's like the 3rd highest mountain in the world. So like way high up there. And then as she's doing this climb and like at base camp and getting prepared, people start dying. So there's like a murderer on the mountain, and we kind of go from there. It's like a mystery thriller. And I will say I liked some of it. I will say like the mountain climbing aspects and like the details of that were interesting. And actually when I was reading like the back part, she has actually climbed this mountain, Mansalu, in Nepal. She was actually the youngest Canadian woman to climb it. So she has like actual experience mountain climbing. So I liked reading about that. I felt like the thriller aspect of it and like the murderer and not being able to like figure out who it was, like for me that was a stretch. And it just kind of ended up being like pretty unrealistic to me. So it was okay, like it was entertaining, and when I got to the end I was kind of like okay, but it definitely wasn't a favorite. There wasn't any big thrills in it. And I feel like she did like a fine job explaining like mountain climbing. If you want like a much more in-depth like view of what mountain climbing is like on that level, I feel like Jon Krakauer's Into Thin Air is like much better done in that aspect, which for like is a nonfiction of what it's like climbing Everest and climbing like these super tall mountains. So this was a different mountain, so a little different, but kind of the same feeling. So probably wouldn't recommend, unfortunately. I mean, I thought it was like a fine, entertaining book, but as far as thrillers go, as far as like mountain climbing goes, I feel like you could do better than this one, unfortunately. So, but still entertaining. It was a good break from the middle grade. Okay, next I read Micro by Michael Crichton and Richard Preston. So this was Michael Crichton's last work. He was in the progress of writing this one when he passed away. And I hadn't wanted to pick it up for a long time. I was like, I have it, but I don't want to read it. It's kind of sad, like the end of an era. Even though I still have Michael Crichton books I haven't read, so it's not like I still have more to go. But I really do like his writing, and I wish he would not have passed away as young as he did. But Micro is about the micro world. So imagine a combination of Jurassic Park and remember that movie from the 90s where they get shrunken down? It's like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So it's like a combination of that, okay? So we have this group of grad students, or maybe I think they're grad students, or maybe they're young ones working on their doctorates. I can't remember exactly, but they're young scientists, okay? And they get invited to go to Hawaii to, this lab in Hawaii is recruiting students to do this like undisclosed work, and they don't really know what is happening, why they're really going, but they know that it's like an incredible opportunity to work in the fields that they are interested in. So long story short, they end up getting shrunken down to teeny tiny little humans, and it's like a huge adventure, and there's obviously bad guys and good guys, and a huge portion of the book is them trying to survive in the like rainforest of Hawaii as these teeny tiny little creatures. And I thought it was super entertaining. I will say again, is this like the best book ever? No, but if you are interested in like entomology in any way, like this book would be fascinating for you, because as they are like in the teeny tiny rainforest, they're coming up against ants and wasps, and like seeing like how these animals act towards their prey, and like how they like what it would be like to be something tiny trying to survive against them, was really good, like really interesting, really well done. And obviously it's Michael Crichton. There's like ton of scientific facts woven in. I felt like it's hard because you don't know like how much was Michael Crichton and how much was Richard Preston. The only other book I've read by Richard Preston was The Hot Zone, and it was like forever ago, so I can't remember a lot of details about like his style of writing. I will say I felt that this had like less big science chunks. Like a lot of times in Michael Crichton's work, it'll go for like, and now I'm going on a scientific tangent, and it's like this very long scientific explanation of things and how things work. I felt like there was less of this in here, so I'm guessing that was Richard Preston influenced, but I don't know for sure. For me, I kind of love the big science chunks, so I felt like this actually, for some of it, could have had more like scientific background for it. Would have been interesting. It was a little bit more like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was more action-packed. I just felt like it was missing some of that depth that we get from Michael Crichton. So yeah, obviously I don't want to explain how they got there and how they came to be where they were, because that kind of gives away like part of the plot. But definitely an entertaining read, something that kept me. I listened to some of it and I read some of it. Yeah, it was a pretty good one. It was definitely an entertaining sci-fi read for sure. Okay, the next book I did listen to on audiobook entirely, and that was The Plot by Jean Korelix. And this was actually a book club pick. And this book, honestly, it's a good thing for book club, because if I had started this book and listened to like the first 2 chapters of it, I would have DNF'd it. Like, it starts so slow, and like the audiobook narrator was like choppy and like drawling on, and I was just like, what is going on right now? But it was for book club, so I was like, well, I can't stop after 2 chapters. I guess I'll just keep listening. And as I was listening, like the narrator like figured out how to narrate, like he got much better, and the book got better as well, thankfully. And I ended up really enjoying it. So if you do decide to give this one a try, just maybe don't do the audiobook, like just read the book and it might go better for you, or just hang in there if you do start with the audiobook, because the narrator overall wasn't great, but in the beginning it was painful. So anyways, this is like a book within a book, kind of. Our main character is an author. He's written like a couple of books in the past, and but not been like super successful, and now he's just like teaching students how to write and like not super happy with his life. And he comes across a student who has this idea for a book, and he's like, this is the best plot ever. This book, you don't even have to be a good writer. This plot is just gonna sell books. Like, this is gonna be the best book. And he tells it to the teacher, and the teacher's like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, this is gonna be the best book. Like, this is gonna be the best plot ever. I wish I had thought of this. We kind of then like flash forward a couple years, and then a couple years of this main character's life. I don't know why I can't remember his name right now. Apparently I blocked it out. But he is like still working, and he finds out that like this student who had the great plot has passed away. And the book was never published. And then we go from there. And that's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to say any more, except for it all centers around like the plot of this book. So I really enjoyed it. I thought the ending was really well done as well. I felt like some parts of it could have been done better. Like some of it, I was just like, this is not. I don't like when characters just do things that don't make sense. You know what I mean? And a couple of times I was like, this does not make sense. Like, no one would ever do this. And I get that authors can like, it's their book, it's their characters, they can make them however they want to make them. But I don't love when characters do something that like 99.9% of the population wouldn't do. Bugs me. But anyways, read it. We had a great conversation about it at book club. Definitely one that I enjoyed. The next book I read was the first book in the Book Wanderer series by Anna James. And this book was a buddy read with Chatty the Mad Chatter and Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot. And I think we all had a really good time reading this one. This was just a sweet, pretty fast-paced middle grade, clean, easy to digest. It was about this girl named Tilly who lives in this bookshop with her grandparents, and the characters of the books start coming out and speaking with her. So she's like chatting with Anne from Anne of Green Gables and Alice from Alice in Wonderland. And then there's kind of like this mystery involved, and she starts going into the books. And there's this like mystery of what happened to her parents, because she's living with her grandparents, and there's kind of some mystery surrounded like what happened with her parents. So I just thought it was really cute, really well done. I'll save it for my kids for sure. And we are actually going to be reading the second book in the series, I think next month. May? June? I think June, I think is when it is. So I'm really looking forward to it. It was a super cute, fun, lighthearted series. Okay, next I read this one, which was Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. And I really liked this one a lot. This was a buddy read with Rachel over at Homeschool with Rachel. And we were overdue for a good buddy read. We tried to read last year The Paris Apartment, and we did not like it at all. She finished it. I didn't even finish it. I was like, I cannot handle this anymore. So we were both really happy that we really enjoyed this book. So Vera Wong is this elderly lady, and she lives in above her tea shop. And her tea shop, she's living alone. Her husband has passed away. Her son isn't really involved in her life. So she lives above this tea shop, and she, it's like old and dilapidated, and she only gets one customer a day, and she just isn't successful anymore in the tea industry, but she still is very like gung-ho. Like, she gets up at 4:30 every morning, and she gets up and she puts on her hat and she goes walking around the neighborhood, and she is making the most out of what she has in her life. And one day when she goes downstairs, she finds a dead body in like the middle of her tea shop. And we kind of go from there. She calls the police, gets the police involved. The police, she does not feel like are competent and are able to do their job, and they're kind of like brushing this off as like an accident, and she knows it's a murder. So she kind of takes things into her own hands, gets her own group of suspects, and is like interviewing these people, but also they're all kind of like younger, like 20s, 30s. She's also kind of like mothering them and getting them to do what she wants them to do as she is, as they are her suspects for this murder. And it is hilarious, like laugh out loud funny, like so many funny moments, so cute. And it has like the found family aspect too, as she's getting like closer and closer to these characters and like kind of mothering them, and they're kind of like, we really like this woman even though she's like accusing us of being murderers. Like it is just really one of my favorite books I've read so far this year. I really liked it a lot, and I really want to read more by this author as well. And actually, I just found out they're gonna make a movie out of this one, which I can see being really cute. I don't tend to watch movies ever, like adaptations don't really do it for me, but I am like excited for this author that like she is getting that recognition, and like that it is going to become something more, because I thought it was so cute. Like I would love a sequel, honestly. I thought this Vera Wang character was Vera Wong character was really, her shop is called Vera Wang's Tea Shop, but her name is Vera Wong, which is like this whole part of the story. But anyways, I thought I really liked it. So definitely, if there's any books that you should read from my list, like this is the only one that I read that I would say for sure like this was my favorite of the month. Like I really enjoyed this a lot. Okay, and then I read The Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. And I will say this was kind of a disappointment for me. Man, I just wanted more from Neil Gaiman. I've read the Anansi Boys. I loved Neverwhere. So this was my third Gaiman book, and I will say I can't say that I really recommend it. It was fine. It was a decent story. I think the problem was it was like short, but not short story and not full novel. So there wasn't a lot of development of the characters. Like it was kind of like, here's a character and then this is happening. And oh, that's really creepy. And then here the character is, but then we don't have time to really like sit and think about like what's going on and how they're feeling and learn more about the character. It was just like, well, now the characters are going to do this and now they're going to do this. And like, so it was like a fast flowing, creepy kind of haunty story. And there was some good parts of it, but I never really like got into it. I was just kind of like, I just want to see what happens. And, man, part of the problem is probably the deckled edges too. I hate deckled edges. It's just, when reading a book with deckled edges, like you can't be fully happy. They're just crunchy looking. So yeah, didn't love it, unfortunately. I thought it was fine. There was some really good, like, I was like, oh, that's so creepy and so good. But then it was like, and now, blah, 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 blah. What's going to happen next? Yeah. So that was kind of a bummer. It didn't really do it for me. So yeah, I think we're going to keep it there. I have a couple books that I'm working on now, but I think I'll save them for another day because I hear my kids doing something that I probably need to go investigate because it's quiet time and they're supposed to be quiet. And it's definitely not quiet. So I'm going to leave you there. I hope you guys are doing well wherever you are. I hope you take some time today to read a good book or two. And if you are having a bad hair day, just wear a bandana. Bye.